bottom, producing a distinct layer called B horizon. This is a somewhat arbitrary definition, as mixtures of sand, silt, clay and humus will support biological and agricultural activity before that time. 47. These constituents are moved from one level to another by water and animal activity. As a result, layers, horizons, form in the soil profile. The alteration and movement of materials within a soil causes the formation of distinctive soil horizons. However, more recent definitions of soil embrace soils without any organic matter, such as those regoliths that formed on Mars. 48, and analogous conditions in planet Earth deserts. 49. An example of the development of a soil would begin with the weathering of lava flow bedrock, which would produce the purely mineral-based parent material from which the soil texture forms. Soil development would proceed most rapidly from bedrock of recent flows in a warm climate, under heavy and frequent rainfall. Under such conditions, plants, in a first stage nitrogen-fixing lichens and cyanobacteria, then epiphytic higher plants, become established very quickly on basaltic lava, evened out area is very little organic material. 50. Basaltic minerals commonly weather relatively quickly, according to Goldic dissolution series. 51. The plants are supported by the porous rock as it is filled with nutrient-bearing water that carries minerals dissolved from the rocks. Crevasses and pockets, local topography of the rocks, would hold fine materials and harbor plant roots. The developing plant roots are associated with mineral weathering mycorrhizal fungi. 52. That assist in breaking up the porous lava, and by these means organic matter and a finer mineral soil accumulate with time. Such initial stages of soil development have been described on volcanoes. 53. In Selbergs. 54. And glacial moraines. 55. How soil formation proceeds is influenced by at least 5 classic factors that are intertwined in the evolution of a soil: parent material, climate, topography, relief, organisms, and time. 56. When reordered to climate, relief, organisms, parent material, and time, they form the acronym CROP. 57. Physical properties. The physical properties of soils, in order of decreasing importance for ecosystem services such as crop production, are texture, structure, bulk density, porosity, consistency, temperature, color and resistivity. 58. Soil texture is determined by the relative proportion of the 3 kinds of soil mineral particles, called soil separates: sand, silt, and clay. At the next larger scale, soil structures called beds, or more commonly soil aggregates, are created from the soil separates when iron oxides, carbonates, clay, silica and humus coat particles and cause them to adhere into larger, relatively stable secondary structures. 59. Soil bulk density, when determined at standardized moisture conditions, is an estimate of soil compaction. 60. Soil porosity consists of the void part of the soil volume and is occupied by gases or water. Soil consistency is the ability of soil materials to stick together. Soil temperature and color are self-defining. Resistivity refers to their assistance to conduction of electric currents and affects the rate of corrosion of metal and concrete structures, which are buried in soil. 61. These properties vary through the depth of a soil profile, i.e. through soil horizons. Most of these properties determine the aeration of the soil and the ability of water to infiltrate and to be held within the soil. 62. Soil moisture. Soil water content can be measured as volume or weight. Soil moisture levels, in order of decreasing water content, are saturation, field capacity, wilting point, air dry, and oven dry. Field capacity describes a drainage wet soil at the point water content reaches equilibrium with gravity. Irrigating soil above field capacity risks percolation losses. Wilting point describes the dry limit for growing plants. During growing season, soil moisture is unaffected by functional groups or species richness. 63. Available water capacity is the amount of water held in a soil profile available to plants. As water content drops, plants have to work against increasing forces of adhesion and sorptivity to withdraw water. Irrigation scheduling avoids moisture stress by replenishing depleted water before stress is induced. 64. 65. Capillary action is responsible for moving groundwater from wet regions of the soil to dry areas. Sub-irrigation designs, for example, wicking beds, sub-irrigated planters, rely on capillarity to supply water to plant roots. Capillary action can result in an evaporative concentration of salts, causing land degradation through salination. Soil moisture measurement measuring the water content of the soil, as can be expressed in terms of volume or weight, can be based on in situ probes, for example, capacitance probes, neutron probes, or remote sensing methods. Soil moisture measurement is an important factor in determining changes in soil activity. 63. Soil gas. The atmosphere of soil, or soil gas, is very different from the atmosphere above. The consumption of oxygen by microbes and plant roots, and their release of carbon dioxide, decreases oxygen and increases carbon dioxide concentration. Atmospheric CO2 concentration is 0.04%, but in the soil pore space it may range from 10 to 100 times that level, thus potentially contributing to the inhibition of root respiration. 66. Calcareous soils regulate CO2 concentration by carbonate buffering, contrary to acid soils in which all CO2 respired accumulates in the soil pore system. 67. At extreme levels, CO2 is toxic. 68. This suggests a possible negative feedback control of soil CO2 concentration through its inhibitory effects on root and microbial respiration, also called soil respiration. 69. In addition, the soil voids are saturated with water vapor, at least until the point of maximal hygroscopicity, beyond which a vapor pressure deficit occurs in soil pore space. 34. Adequate porosity is necessary, not just to allow the penetration of water, but also to allow gases to diffuse in and out. Movement of gases is by diffusion from high concentrations to lower, the diffusion coefficient decreasing with soil compaction. 70. Oxygen from above atmosphere diffuses in the soil where it is consumed, and levels of carbon dioxide in excess of above atmosphere diffuse out with other gases, including greenhouse gases, as well as water. 71. Soil texture and structure strongly affect soil porosity and gas diffusion. It is the total pore space, porosity, of soil, not the pore size, and the degree of pore interconnection, or conversely pore sealing, together with water content, air turbulence and temperature, that determine the rate of diffusion of gases into and out of soil. 72. 71. Clayty soil structure and soil compaction, low porosity, impede gas flow, and a deficiency of oxygen may encourage anaerobic bacteria to strip oxygen, from nitrate NO3 to the gases N2, N2O, and NO, which are then lost to the atmosphere, thereby depleting the soil of nitrogen, a detrimental process called denitrification. 73. Aerated soil is also a net sink of methane, CH4, 74, but a net producer of methane, a strong heat-absorbing greenhouse gas, when soils are depleted of oxygen and subject to elevated temperatures. 75. Soil atmosphere is also the seat of emissions of volatiles other than carbon and nitrogen oxides from various soil organisms, for example roots. 76. Bacteria. 77. Fungi. 78. Animals. 79. These volatiles are used as chemical cues, making soil atmosphere the seat of interaction networks. 81. Playing a decisive role in the stability, dynamics and evolution of soil ecosystems. 82. Biogenic soil. Volatile organic compounds are exchanged with the above ground atmosphere, in which they are just 1-2 orders of magnitude lower than those from above ground vegetation. 83. Humans can get some idea of the soil atmosphere through the well-known after the rain scent, when in filtering rainwater flushes out the whole soil atmosphere after a drought period, or when soil ice excavated. 84. A bulk property attributed in a reductionist manner to particular biochemical compounds such as petrichor or geosmin. Solid phase, soil matrix. Soil particles can be classified by their chemical composition, mineralogy, as well as their size. The particles' size distribution of a soil, its texture, determines many of the properties of that soil, in particular hydraulic conductivity and water potential. 85. But the mineralogy of those particles can strongly modify those properties. The mineralogy of the finest soil particles, clay, is especially important. 86. Soil biodiversity. Large numbers of microbes, animals, plants and fungi are living in soil. However, biodiversity in soil is much harder to study as most of this life is invisible, hence estimates about soil biodiversity have been unsatisfactory. A recent study suggested that soil is likely home to 59 plus or minus 15% of the species on Earth. Enchytroidae, worms, have the greatest percentage of species in soil, 98.6%, followed by fungi, 90%, plants, 85.5%, and termites, Isoptera, 84.2%. Many other groups of animals have substantial fractions of species living in soil, for example about 30% of insects, and close to 50% of arachnids. 87. While most vertebrates live above ground, ignoring aquatic species, many species are fossorial, that is, they live in soil, such as most flying snakes. Chemistry. The chemistry of the soil determines its ability to supply available plant nutrients and affects its physical properties and the health of its living population. In addition, a soil's chemistry also determines its corrosivity, stability, and ability to absorb pollutants and to filter water. It is the surface chemistry of mineral and organic colloids that determines soil's chemical properties. 88. A colloid is a small, insoluble particle ranging in size from 1 nanometer to 1 micrometer, thus small enough to remain suspended by Brownian motion in a fluid medium without settling. 89. Most soils contain organic colloidal particles called humus as well as the inorganic colloidal particles of clays. The very high specific surface area of colloids and their net electrical charges give soil its ability to hold and release ions. Negatively charged sites on colloids attract and release cations in what is referred to as cation exchange. Cation exchange capacity is the amount of exchangeable cations per unit weight of dry soil and is expressed in terms of milliequivalents of positively charged ions per 100 grams of soil, or centimoles of positive charge per kilogram of soil, kmol/kilogram. Similarly, positively charged sites on colloids can attract and release anions in the soil, giving the soil anion exchange capacity. Cation and anion exchange. The cation exchange, that takes place between colloids and soil water, buffers, moderates, soil pH, alters oil structure, and purifies percolating water by adsorbing cations of all types, both useful and harmful. The negative or positive charges on colloid particles make them able to hold cations or anions, respectively, to their surfaces. The charges result from 4 sources. 90. Isomorphous substitution occurs in clay during its formation, when lower valence cations substitute for higher valence cations in the crystal structure. 91. Substitutions in the outermost layers are more effective than for the innermost layers, as the electric charge strength drops off as the square of the distance. The net result is oxygen atoms with net negative charge and the ability to attract cations. Edge of clay oxygen atoms are not in balance ionically as the tetrahedral and octahedral structures are incomplete. 92. Hydroxyls may substitute for oxygens of the silica layers, a process called hydroxylation. When the hydrogens of the clay hydroxyls are ionized